Hello, everyone. I'm Aydoğan Vatandaş, the editor-in-chief of Politurco.com. Today, I have a remarkable guest, Professor David Phillips from Columbia University. David, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
So, David, are you following the news about the blast in Turkey 2 days ago? So, the Turkish government immediately accused the PKK and the U.S. government for this terrorist attack. On the other hand, PKK refused any involvement. So, what do you think, as a investigator working and focusing on the region for decades?
First, I'd like to express my condolences to the victims and to their families.
Mm-hmm.
I've been following the news and I watched the video footage, and it's a terrible incident. It's always terrible when civilians die, no matter who may be the perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you're right. There has not been any investigation, though the Turkish authorities were very quick to blame the PKK and the U.S. government. Frankly, this is par for the course. Whenever there's an incident that's comparable, the Turkish government jumps the gun, accuses the PKK, and is ready to implicate U.S. authorities. It's important that we have a complete and thorough investigation, and then adhering to the rule of law, the perpetrators are held accountable. Until there's an investigation, it would be a mistake to jump to conclusion.
Right. But do you think that PKK might have any motive? Do they have any benefit out of it? Do they have any reason in these political circumstances to make such an attack in Istanbul? What do you think about this?
So the PKK has no motive to launch such an attack. Alternatively, the PKK is rather keen to restart negotiations on a modus vivendi with the government of Turkey. So an attack like this clearly puts a big hole in the bottom of the boat and undermines the prospect of negotiation. That's why I'm skeptical about the PKK's involvement. I'm also skeptical about the U.S. government's involvement. Why would U.S. authorities play any role in this kind of attack? I've seen a lot of chatter in social media,
right,
by Turks who were saying that the explosion may in fact have been organized by the Turkish authorities themselves as a way of sowing chaos,
right,
undermining conditions for the election, and maybe even using it as an excuse to postpone or cancel elections entirely, since the AKP is not polling very well. I don't want to jump to conclusions in any scenario, but we need to be open-minded. But clearly, the conclusion that the PKK and the U.S. government may be involved is premature and presumptive. We need to look into this more closely.
Right. And according to the narrative of the Turkish authorities, the alleged perpetrator of the attack has an Arab nationality. You're working on this topic for years and decades. Did you see this kind of, Arab nationals in PKK? And they say that this woman was, very well trained in intelligence units of PKK, but it doesn't make any sense because she doesn't look very trained and very intelligent, So do you think that it is likely for the PKK to use an Arab woman from Syria? What do you think about this?
Highly unlikely. We've seen attacks in Turkey committed by Arabs, including Arabs from Syria, who have an ISIS affiliation.
Right.
But this raises a whole set of questions. We know that Turkey has long-standing collaboration with jihadi groups, that it sponsored ISIS fighters to transit through Turkey to Raqqa. And that raises real doubt about who committed this act, why they may have committed it. If Turkey's collaborating with jihadists, it increases the likelihood that this event was staged in order to justify a security and a political response.
Mm-hmm. And one more question from the American side: when they hear this kind of unsubstantiated allegations from the Turkish sides, saying that the Americans are behind it, we are talking about the interior minister of Turkey making this kind of allegations. And how do you think that the American administration take this kind of allegations?
Well, firstly, the interior minister's statement is totally irresponsible and reckless.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. and Turkey are nominally allies, mm-hmm. and Turkish authorities don't want to be discrediting or blemishing the U.S. reputation. Mm-hmm. How does the U.S. respond? And you can ask U.S. officials that question. Mm-hmm. I am no longer a U.S. official, so I can't speak for the government. But frankly, U.S. officials just roll their eyes. Mm-hmm. Here we go again. Turkey acting recklessly, making false charges, and using those charges to provoke its security and political response.
Right.
Ankara needs to take a deep breath and recognize mm-hmm. that talks between Kurds and the government of Turkey are critical to stability in Turkey in the future, that the U.S. or another country can play a mediating role. But if Turkey is going to recklessly accuse the U.S. of crimes that it hasn't committed, that just undermines the prospect of international mediation.
Mm-hmm. David, thank you so much for your time. These are my questions. Do you have anything else to add, David?
Just that the elections are coming up in Turkey, and the AKP is not polling well. Mm-hmm. So if anybody has an incentive here to try to create chaos and disrupt the political process, it's not the PKK, it's the Justice and Development Party itself. Mm-hmm. Let's see what the numbers look like when there's actually an election. But Turkey has been held hostage by the AKP for too long. It's time for Turkey to move on, to normalize its international relations, to restore amity between the U.S. and Turkey, and fully and finally to reach an agreement with the PKK that transforms it into a political party so that they can play a constructive role in peace building in Turkey.
Thank you so much, David, for this insightful interview.
Thank you very much, Adon.
Okay.